Captain's Log Supplemental.
Hey Jeremy, you know those race cars you're busy building?
Yeah, I do.
You,
I
you,
got one that I'm looking at every day.
you know what I don't see you working on?
You don't see me working on the amazing Sentinel system yet.
That's true. It would take all of 10 minutes for you to have one.
And it's very quick and easy to install.
It is. It is. And we could watch you when we are not at the race with you and see how you're doing. And then we can call you up when you get out of the car and tell you everything you did wrong.
And I love that because so many years I've been driving and not been able to see what I'm doing.
I know.
And now we can.
I know. You know what I'd like to do with the video? My most favorite thing is I take the video and I load it on YouTube and then I send it to my coach and say, look at 26 minutes and 17 seconds. Look at this one lap and tell me what I can do better. And every single time, you know what they say?
Everything.
Exactly. Precisely. So with the Sentinel system, you get instantaneous feedback plus useful feedback that unfortunately is accurate for my driving.
I think it's accurate for all of our driving.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's probably true. Yep. But you need to get one in your car, sir.
Yes, I do. And with the discount code that you're going to tell everybody, they can save 10% on this awesome system.
Yep. Trouble free. I haven't had an issue getting video every time we've gone out with the Sentinel. It's always worked. Can't say the same for some of the other systems we've tried. So I don't know. It's on the podcast notes down there. Don't do it while you're driving, though. We like to have our listeners live. It's good.
Who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe, comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. And their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher. And our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuk. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the podcast. Vicky's going to jump in anytime now. She's not waiting for anything. I'm one of the hosts, Bill. Vicky's here too. And we got Peter Krause. Peter Krause, welcome back.
Well, thank you, Bill. Thank you, Vicky. It's always a pleasure to be here.
I had to truncate the normal podcast intro because Vicky cannot control herself. You know,
I
Peter.
know. I love Peter.
You know
I
what?
do.
I don't know.
Why?
If Peter,
Why?
Because you're awesome.
I don't know if Peter knows Vicky's earned nickname. Peter, do you know what Vicky's nickname is on the podcast?
No.
Her nickname is Bulldozer. You know why?
I have
There it is. That's why.
ADHD just a little bit, so I get excited. I have to write things down so I don't interrupt.
Yeah, that still it doesn't work though, but that's okay. So Peter, we've had you on the podcast a couple times before. We just went to an event that we're going to talk about, and you are a silly man and have agreed to come on every 50 episodes, so that at least now, between the every 50 that Ross comes on and the staggered every 50 that you come on, we'll have 2 good episodes every 50.
Well, Bill, I tell you, I love being on the podcast because you guys have a great and unique take on everything that we talk about. And we're not talking about simple things. We're talking about hard things. And that to me makes what we're talking about and what we're doing so much more important. I mean, it's really fun.
Well, it was way too kind, but we want to remind you that your official title on the podcast is our Mr. VIR.
Well, I never get tired of that place. I never do.
Oh, we don't either because we can't ever get
We keep
there.
trying to get there. No, get it this year.
goes.
I know. This year we tried to get to VIR this year. And come to find out that our co-driver that was going had to have eye surgery. So he goes, I can't even drive. So we sent him out a shirt and a bunch of googly eyes. But yeah, so I'm like, we can't even make it because we just came back from vacation and immediately we were
People will
supposed to
get
be
surgery, so
in
we can't go.
VIR. And
It's
he's like,
fine.
I can't go because I got surgery. I'm like, oh, and I
Oh,
can't
that's
make it
too
this
bad.
year either.
Anyway,
Sucks.
so Bulldozer and Peter,
Yep.
you two did a thing a couple weeks back, and it's been a little bit of time, but I thought we might start off with the Ross Bentley. I don't even know the official name. Ross and Peter and Ian and Mario at Pineview Run set up what's not an HPDE, but if we're going to call it an HPDE, I would make it HPDE exclamation point. I don't know. It was much better, I think. And I just wanted to get your feedback, Peter. You were one of the instructors there, and you personally had the highlight of my I'll call it a weekend, even though it was during the week. Was when you got so excited when you heard a certain orange Miata going around the track, and I believe you screamed out in the middle of someone else's sentence, "Commitment!" And my favorite part of the weekend.
That was so much fun. That
It
was
was.
really, really good. It was so much fun. And it's interesting because you don't get a chance a lot of times to work with people who are really uh really tuned in. And I think Ross put together a group of people that I think they put together a program called SSA, Speed Secrets Academy. So this was
Hmm.
under the Speed Secrets banner. And Speed Secrets Academy was an idea to talk about more than just HPDE stuff, but how to teach yourself, how to move in a particular direction, how to get the most out of what you were doing. And it really wasn't even dependent on the circuit.
Mm-mm.
That's what was really, really fun about it. I think everybody has a sense of familiarity that they really don't want to transcend because they're anxious about it. And I think that's fair and that's reasonable to say, well, I don't think I can learn unless I'm on a track that I really know well. And in this particular case, this was very different from everything that had ever happened before with Ross in the fact that we went to a circuit to work with 40 people over the course of 5 days on a track that none of us had ever been on before, with the exception of Ian and Mario Korf. And it was really fun. I just can't tell you how much fun it was.
Mm. And we had such a good group too. We were in the first group, and we had such a good group. They were just funny. They were a funny group. Like
They
really,
were. They had a
yeah,
great sense of humor. They had a sense of humor. People had the right perspective about the whole thing. That was what I thought was
right.
neat. Nobody had an attitude. Nobody had a chip on their shoulder. Nobody
Uh-uh.
was nervously laughing. They were
Mm-mm.
laughing genuinely and humanly and fully and openly. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
big deal. That's hard to
Mm-hmm.
do.
Right.
So it
I
was
would have
fun.
to agree. I think what made, at least in that particular group, because I can only speak for that group, was just the receptiveness of everybody and the openness. And they were just drinking in the knowledge that was coming, and which is what I
It
really
wasn't it
enjoyed about
wasn't
it.
knowledge all the time. I'm just going to say that.
It was pretty, yeah, it was pretty great.
That's true. Well, I
Indeed.
don't know why it was great. I mean, I think we need to look at a little bit of that and from your guys' perspective, because I think both of you are both incredibly experienced listeners, which is a hard thing to do.
What did you
Hmm.
say? What did you say, Peter?
I don't know what he's
Well,
talking about.
I just think that it's unusual for people that are really good at listening to latch onto this and say, "Hey, this is true wisdom." And I don't know. It just seemed like it worked out very, very well.
Hmm.
I think the hardest part we have is sometimes we're aiming to help people either get better or get started. And sometimes when we're doing the get started ones, we have to ask questions as if we don't know the answer, which I guess is part of coaching. So
Hmm.
it's
That's
it's
right.
always interesting because some people are, I've met a few people on the track and they're like, you don't suck. You're not slow. And I'm like, no, I'm not.
Hmm.
I'm not fast, but I'm not slow. you know? So everybody's on a
But
spectrum.
That's a win. That
that's
is a
right.
win. I
But
mean, I think, I get mad because there's a current. I'm not going to say I get mad. I get frustrated. One of the biggest online forums that I spend a lot of time with is Renlist.
Hmm.
And Renlist is Porsche centric because a large number of Porsche owners are very, uh, you know, they're
Snooty.
really religious followers of driving on a circuit and doing all kinds of things with their cars.
Hmm.
But the thing that was remarkable to me was that the you could always learn more. Everybody seemed to be able to be open to learning more, and that was one of the things that was really special about what we were doing over the course of the. I'm getting a little lost here because there were so many cool things I wanted to talk about.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
We got plenty of tape in the podcast, so we're good to go. Well, we can
Yeah.
Yeah.
start off, Miss Vicky. Do you remember what your biggest learning points were and what you were going to try to work on after? Maybe you can
Well,
entertain Peter.
yeah, there was there was something that I had a really massive takeaway from. And it wasn't until I was talking with Mario and Ian, Dr. Ian, sorry, um, that early on, part of the reason in why I do what I do on the track, okay, um, was that I have always been working on waiting for the car to settle, which is why I do and perform the way I do after looking at what the car can do with the reference lab that she put down. And they just said, "Why do you do that? Why do you wait for the car to settle?" And I said, "Well, that's how I was taught." That's how I was taught because I remember going to NJMP, and NJMP has this off camber turn that when you go around it, I had not waited for, I had gone off because I felt the car float and then it would have to settle. And then you could take off when you feel all the grip.
This is
So
turn 5 at Lightning.
turn five at Lightning. Okay.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, why do you do that?" And I'm like, "Because I had gone off and that's what they had told me and that's what I had learned." They said, "Make it settle. Make the car do it. Instead of waiting for the car to do it, make the car do it." And I'm like, "Oh, I can do that." So now that's what I'm working on is to really work on throwing that car around instead
See,
of
this is so
waiting.
cool because all of a sudden you're ahead of the game. You're ahead of the horse.
That that
You're ahead of
that
the car.
that's been 5 years of a bad
Yeah.
of a bad
Or
not bad. It is what was done through HPDEs and training and coach. But that stuck. So I'm like, what else stuck that I'm doing? So, well, yeah,
That's
I got Bill.
I can answer. I can answer. I can answer.
Yeah, what's that?
Um, uh, the saddest question you asked during the entire weekend was, "What does full throttle mean?"
Because
You're in. You're in a
it's
Miata.
so elementary. It's an elementary question, but what does that
seems like
mean?
it's an elementary question, but it's it's an elementary question only because people haven't thought about it
Mm-hmm.
more,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I think it was very interesting because we talked about that. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about the number one difference between what you were doing and what Alyssa was doing.
Right.
And you ended up later, further down the road, doing substantially more full throttle, more
I
wide
was
open throttle.
throwing myself into that thing that they refer to as the catcher's mitt. You guys said this
Yeah.
is like a cat. I was at by the end of that weekend, which I did not want to take that last run because, well, I did, but I was really cautious. I'm always cautious on the last run of the day,
I think
even
that's
if I do it.
wise. That's just wise.
Right. But, I think towards the end of our, you know, weekend or days that we were doing that, I was really trying to throw myself into that. I was like, let's see how hard I can slam into that before I go up the hill. But yeah, so that there was some like I would like to do it again. I would like to
Mhm.
do the academy again because it's like, what else am I doing? Because I'm not saying that what I learned was wrong, but I think that I've outgrown it. So
I agree.
now it's time to like the data. Like we had that conversation about the data, which we're going to go into, which is like I think that there's a certain time in your learning for that. It's not something that you just say, oh, we're going to do data, so I'm going to teach you now. I don't, you have to be receptive for it. You have to get to that point. Okay, now I can do that. Now I got all this other stuff. Now I can focus on it. So, but yeah, so that was like, that was massive. Like that was the biggest takeaway that I got from that. And then especially I was looking at a thing that popped up on my feed and it was for high planes and there was like this Corvette goes around and he's going around the corner and then another car goes around the corner and then there's this freaking Miata that comes around and he is drifting into the corner, grabs it and then goes. I'm like, that's what I need to be doing, full, like you said, and that was drilled in my head, full commitment,
Right.
because you yelled at that in the class when you
Oh
heard.
God, I love that.
And you're
I
just
mean,
like full commitment. I'm like, ah.
And you
So
can't
I'm
even say
sorry.
my car doesn't sound like that because it was
it's
in
fun
your
when you
car.
when you pull it off. It's really fun. It is.
Oh.
But it's hard to do. I mean, you can't just turn a switch on and have that happen.
Mm-mm.
No.
I mean, you had a
No.
journey,
Mm-hmm.
Vicky, you had a journey, and then the
Mm-hmm.
light bulb came on, and that I think is what is so much fun about this sport is we really get multiple opportunities
Mm-hmm.
to get better and to
Yeah.
recognize what it takes to get better,
Right.
for sure.
But the thing is that elementary question that we had, full throttle, what does that mean? What does that translate out to? Because to me, it's just punching it. But then you can't really punch it unless you're in the proper gear. And then what does that look like? But it was such an elementary question. But you're right, it's something that you didn't really think about. And all of a sudden, like a bunch of other people, like, yeah, what does that mean? What does that mean? You know?
But
Be-
it's not that people are afraid to ask the question. That was one of the things that I thought was really, really cool about Speed Secrets Academy is
mm-hmm.
everybody was there and nobody was worried about the judgment
Mm-mm.
of anyone else there. So it freed everybody from afraid of sounding not up to speed or asking silly questions or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. And obviously, Ross is the best
Oh my,
about
he's like a kid. He's like a big kid.
he is, he disarms
Mm-hmm.
people's anxiety about asking these questions so easily and so with such wonderful sleight of hand that people want to ask questions for the sake of asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we got. And my problem is I'm a kid too because I start bouncing off the wall going, me.
Yep.
And he's nice enough to throw me a bone every now and then and say, okay, talk it, talk it through.
Mm-hmm.
And and we, Ross and I have so much fun because we do believe in the same thing. We almost can finish each other's sentences, but we don't necessarily agree with each other as to the priority of things.
Mhm.
And that to me is helpful because it gives people an additional perspective. Like you saying, man, it was pounded into my head to do this way, this way, this way. And now you people are telling me this is all wrong,
Mm-hmm.
or at least they didn't give me enough detail to help me get to where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what was really cool about Speed Secrets Academy. I keep thinking showroom stock A. This is
Yeah.
a,
Yeah, yeah,
Not
yeah, yeah,
obsessed at
yeah.
all. You're not
arcane class from SCCA racing years and years ago. I raced a Z28 Camaro about 30 years ago in showroom stock A. It was really fun. Anyway,
79, 79.
yeah, yeah, a one
Oh,
LE. It was a
oh, look at you.
that was 179. I think it was a little later than that,
Oh,
82,
okay.
83.
Okay. Well, it still
But
had the
those
plastic
things were
bumper, so that's good.
really, yeah, those things were really fun. Anyway, I think it is your revelation, Vicky,
Mm-hmm.
is the reason why we did this, is the
Mm-hmm.
reason why Ross after 5 years of pestering by Ian and Mario, um, got said, okay, if we're going to do this, let's do it, but we're going to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And Russ is really, really good because he knows a structure that works because he's done it 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought that the group that he put together, particularly Ian and Mario, but also Sam, who
Sam.
has the
Yeah, Sam.
most wonderful way with words,
Hmm.
and I mean, talk about a guy who can think on his feet.
Right?
Sam's he really
Yeah.
is.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I've discovered since then that he's actually a very gifted racer,
He
which
won't,
is
he will deny, deny, deny. If you want to see him get uncomfortable, the only time he will be uncomfortable speaking is if you ask him to say, how good a racer are you? Or I hear you're a really good racer. Then he's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. So,
well, it's so funny because he got a deal to drive the McLaren F1 car that Montoya, or no, it wasn't Montoya. It was, I think Lewis. Well, no, it was Alonso's
mhm,
McLaren F1. So this would have been 2008, 2009, and he drove it for a magazine article at Indianapolis. And I can count on two hands how many people I know who have raced, who have driven in anger a modern F1 car. And by modern, I mean something younger than the last F1 car I drove, which was about 40 years old, which was an Alfa Romeo V12.
Mm-hmm.
And and this car had modern electronics and really cool stuff. And I mean, it was a spaceship
mhm,
and it required the ministrations of 24 people just to start the car. And and Sam
Wow.
wrote a wonderful article about it. And if you do a little bit of a search on some work that he's done for Road and Track magazine, I think it's Road and Track. It's got a wonderful article of him driving this MP4 12, I think it was, at Indianapolis, and it was just remarkable. But he would never come out and say that stuff.
nope.
And
Mm-hmm.
we would leave the show, the Speed Secrets Academy daily activities, and then we would go back to the farmhouse, and Ross and I and Sam, beat to death, would just sit around talking about racing and cars and vehicle dynamics for the next 3 hours. It was crazy. It was nuts, and about wonderful cars that we have known and loved, and traded the fact that all three of us have been with the same partner ladies for 3 decades
Hmm.
more decades. And so that's always a good thing. But anyway,
For sure.
that's a little far afield, but I just thought the chemistry between everybody at that event was really, really good. And everyone who came in, the first group and the second group, and it was a very different group, I think, Bill. Maybe you
It
have
was.
a better insight. Um, but it worked out great.
It was very fluid, I'd have to say. The way everything was set up. It went seamless. Like if there was hiccups, which I knew there were hiccups, we didn't know about them. We
Well,
didn't know
that's the
about them.
definition of a successful program. It
Mm-hmm.
really is. I mean, we were sweating bullets, actually, all of us. But, once everybody gets into it and the questions start rolling and people get into it and we know we have the room,
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden, I was looking at my watch going, holy Moses, we're two-thirds of the way through or we're three-quarters of the way through. And it felt like it took 15 minutes and it had
Mm-hmm.
been 4 hours. I was
Mm-hmm.
just shocked. And that's how you know it's really, really good because we covered so many different things. And Ross is a master at rejiggering the the program to address a particular group or an audience that is hungry for a segment or sector or piece of the pie of information. And that was another part of the magic was the program was defined by the people that went to it.
Yep.
Hmm.
And that was another reason why the feedback was phenomenal. And
Hmm.
I'm always worried because I think Ross is his own worst critic. I think Sam is his own worst critic. I tend to blow it off. No, I'm my own worst. I'm my own worst critic. I mean, I always think I have hit the wall, and people sit
Hmm.
there and say, "Man, that's something I never heard before, or that really made a difference." Or people come up 10 years later and say, "You know what? When you gave that discussion about end of breaking, which was which has been a thing for as long as all of us have been studying.
Self-preservation kicks in, so it's tough to get
Self-preservation
over
kicks
it.
in. It is really hard. And the problem is self-preservation is such a limiter. We
Hmm.
sit there and we say, I'm trying harder. I'm doing something different. And then they look at the stopwatch and it's the same
Hmm.
time. And
Or
that there's
slower.
nothing or slower. My God. I mean, that can be the most that can suck all the oxygen out of the room for the people that I work with at the track. Is they're sitting there saying, "But I tried this and I did that." And I said, "Okay, we have to break it into smaller bits. We have to make we have to focus on a smaller, best execution of fundamental skills, and then you need to do more of that, and then it will get better." And sometimes it doesn't get better that day that we work together. Sometimes Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but almost always the light bulb comes on, definitely like it did for Vicky, and bang, people are up to speed. So it works okay.
It, it's
You do
it's a
become comfortable being slightly uncomfortable.
it's a great it's a great program to figure out what, like you've doing it, like you said, like if you're stuck or if you're feel like the HPDEs or wherever you're at is just not enough. And you're racing and you're doing, like you said, you're doing things, but you just can't seem to improve. This is what your program is really great for. I'm not saying that's the only thing it's great for, but it does help you sort things out. It helps you think differently. And I think that's what I really appreciated when I talked to Ross about it. And just the way you guys discuss things, it was like it just made me think about a lot of things differently. Not and it was like a takeaway of like, oh, and he spent first of all, um the walk around on the track. Now I've walked tracks before and I'm like, yeah, this, yeah, that, yeah, this, yeah, that. And they kind of point out the basics, but yours was more in depth when you guys did it. It was more of, yes, we look at, you know, pitches, and yes, we looked at edges, and yes, we look at transitions and the apex, but you guys had us really looking at the track and skids and where the
Mm.
traction is and where the wear marks are. And it was more of an in-depth thing that I had this massive takeaway. Like, I'm going to walk every track now because now I know what I'm looking for. And the second thing was that he thought part of it was is that you are what you tell yourself. And that was my biggest takeaway. And it wasn't just about racing. So
Mm.
now I walk around and I'm like, that's not a great thought. Or if I'm having a really bad day, or if I'm really things aren't really going to go like going well, like we keep hitting walls or whatever. But if you keep focusing on those things, you're going to hit all those things. So now it's just like I'm even looking at other people in my life and what they're telling themselves. I'm like, you're giving yourself a self-fulfilling prophecy. You
Right.
are what you tell yourself. And it
Absolutely.
so there, I mean, it just blew my mind, some of the stuff that I walked away with. And I'm like, it was incredible, just changing the thought process of even being behind the wheel and getting behind the wheel again. That was crazy fun. So,
Well, that was the cool thing was we could talk about it all we wanted in class, but then
mhm,
everybody got in their cars.
right.
And that cycle allowed much quicker uptake of
Mhm,
everything that we talked about in the class.
mhm,
And I mean, I love the track walks because everything that we talked about in class and on the track walk is universal. Doesn't matter
mhm.
what car it is, doesn't matter what track it is, doesn't matter what tire you're on. I mean, I love Ian and Mario and those guys, and they have spent a lifetime, it seems, charting the characteristics of a 200 tread wear tire. But the laws of physics don't know the difference between a 200 tread wear tire and a 40 tread wear Hoosier. It's just that the limits are higher. That's it, you know? And so the thing about it was how can we talk and speak and address universal truths rather than this specific stuff everybody seems to get involved in. You talk about HPDE, and I'm not going to get off on this because I get off a cliff if I
Oh,
do.
oh yes, you are. My next question is getting there, so don't you worry.
You know, you talk about HPDE, and HPDE I think is a wonderful introduction,
Mhm,
and I think it serves a very useful purpose, and I think the right seat instructor serves a tremendous resource. But I also think that a lot of HPDE programs are stultifyingly stuck in the mud. I mean, they really are. This is the way we've always done it. This is the secret sauce line. This is the school line. It's never any discussion about driving the car to its limit to the point where it pushes back. Never any discussion about that.
and they
And about,
can't, and they don't to
right.
keep everybody safe.
I
You know,
understand that, but
and that, like I get that, but
there
then,
are ways that
mhm,
people can probe the
mhm,
limit with such fine increments that they don't endanger themselves or others. But it's like a nanny holding a toddler and saying, "Don't step off the sidewalk."
mhm,
When just putting one foot off to see what the grass feels like is a good idea
mhm,
sometimes.
yeah,
And I just, I feel like, HPDE has gotten into a little bit of a rut. Sure, there are some programs that are better than others,
Yep.
but unfortunately, or fortunately, that's a lot of the reason why people go racing is
mhm,
because they want to experiment without the sword of Damocles over their head.
Yep.
But
They're HPD is very widely, I think is the easiest way to put it. We've been to
they
some
do.
very good ones and we haven't.
They,
right.
they do.
So,
They do.
There's some that we just use as a track day. We don't really even pay attention because there's no coaching available. It's just go in, they discuss point buys. You know, I'm out there, raising my hand saying, listen, if you're in 3 or 4 and you're still talking about point buys, you shouldn't be in 3 and 4.
And I
You
love
sh-
the fact that you're raising that because that's
right,
important. People, the
right,
organizers need to hear that. The people that are running
right,
the meeting need to hear that.
right.
yeah.
If this is what your major concern is and all your people and that's all you're talking about, you shouldn't be here. You need to
Mhm.
be, I'm just saying.
Oh,
But
we
then
know.
there's other ones who are really great, and they really focus on drills and things like that. But I think that some of them work on such a volume of
Mhm.
people that now it's like you got what you can out of that, and now it's like you got to focus on nuances, and then you got to break old habits. You got to break bad habits you picked up because you don't have that side by side seat, and you don't have some of the personal coaching. And I think that the nice thing about the program is that they didn't discuss they didn't really focus so much on how the car drives, because we're all expected to know that. We're all expected to know how to handle a car, how to recover a car, how to, these things we already should be there. now let's tweak things. We're tweaking things. We're solving problems that we've picked up along the way, which is what I really appreciated about that so much. So much. You walk away thinking. You walk away thinking and not just saying, "Oh, that was a great day." No, like
Well,
inspired.
the whole thing,
Hmm.
especially over the course of those 5 days, is how many tools can we give these people to help themselves?
Hmm.
How many tools can we help them, can we give them to allow them to know how much is too much and how much is not enough?
Hmm.
Because when the questionnaire went out to all of the attendees, the number one answer that came back out of the question, what do you most hope to achieve by attending this program? Was, I would like to know how to approach the limits of driving my car. That
Hmm.
was the number one answer. And
Hmm.
we were saying, well, by God, they don't talk much about that in
Mm-mm.
DE.
Mm-mm.
They don't want to talk about that in DE.
Mm-mm.
But there are ways to do it in such a way through calibrated exercises, through highly targeted drills,
Oh my
to do it without adding undue risk. That's the key. That was the thing that I
God.
really liked.
Yeah. I just it took me back to this one drill. This one drill. Oh my gosh, it was the no brakes drill.
That
I am
woke up a lot of people. Woo-wee!
oh my gosh. And Ian, no, it wasn't Ian, it was Mario saying that's been around for decades. That drill. It's been around. I've never had it. I've never had it. But when I when I pulled in with Ross and he goes, "How was it?" And I'm like, "It was great. It was scary, but it was great." He goes, "Okay, great. Now do it one gear higher." And I'm like, "Oh geez," and I took off.
Ah, he can't
And
let you, he just can't let you lie. He has to
no.
push.
And I'm like, that was hard, but oh gee, okay.
And
That
you
was
did
hard.
it.
And I did. And that was another thing like, oh, I don't really need brakes in certain spots. Like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Yeah, so anyway.
Well, to me,
That was
what
what
it
I
did,
remember the most.
the beauty of that whole thing was that it showed everybody how much the car slowed just by turning the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
That you could actually overcook it a little bit going in
Mm-hmm.
and still rely on the scrub to
Mm-hmm.
slow the car down to the point where by the apex or shortly after, the nose was tightening up and the car would stay on track leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first exercise Ross and I did Tuesday afternoon when he brought me back from the airport arriving. We go out in that Corvette, in that
Oh,
C7 Corvette. And Ross says, "Well, let's do a no brakes drill." And
oh
I'm sitting
jeez.
there holding down the gear going, ah!
And I gotta
And
say, Yvette's a lot of car for that track too.
yeah, and that is a lot because you're arriving at a relatively high rate of speed.
Hmm.
And all credit to him, he did not touch the brake pedal one time.
Oh, oh, that I've never
And
done that before. That was crazy. That's the one drill of all the drills. That's the one drill I remember the most. And I'm like,
yeah.
oh my God, that was something.
Well, it was fun. We looked at some of the data from
Hmm.
some of the people who had been running conventionally before the
Hmm.
no brakes drill, and then their data from the no brakes drill. And a lot of the slowest VMINs
Hmm.
are higher in the
Wow.
no brakes drill.
Hmm.
So, well, I'm not a full-blown advocate of Mario's idea that a no brakes drill is always yields a faster lap than a conventional lap. I think that there's no question that it helps people understand they can roll a lot more speed in and through the corner. So
Hmm.
one of the things that I learned from other people who are a lot smarter than me, a lot older than I am, 20 years ago was the concept of rolling speed into the corner.
Hmm.
Everybody tends to stop short. It's the self-preservation. So they overbrake They overslow, which means they break down to a speed that is slower than they need to negotiate the entry of the corner. And then they sort of trundle around to the apex. And then they go, now I'm pointed in the right direction. I can accelerate.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at any of good professional drivers, you hear the engine note continue to drop, not steady, not
Mm-hmm.
maintenance, but it continues to drop past turn in to the apex and then it rises again.
Mm-hmm.
So they're always either slowing down and speeding up, or they're rolling speed into the corner and using that steering scrub to get rid of the rest of the speed to get the car, as the car slows down, it can tighten the radius. And we are always taught to be smooth as fast, right? Smooth
Mm-hmm.
as fast. A lot of people are taught that it's one arc of the wheel. You turn one arc of the wheel when you turn in and you hold it all the way through. Well, what people don't realize is the radius that the car will accept changes according to the speed that you're going.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are going faster, you can't turn the wheel as much. If you're going slower, you can turn the wheel more. So
Mm-hmm.
if you correctly choreograph past the end of braking to the apex, you
Mm-hmm.
could conceivably add a little bit more steering, swoop into the apex, and roll on out. And it's this was something that was really important for all of us to cover, and something that the no brakes drill pounded home for a lot of
Mm.
people was,
Mm.
wow, this thing sticks a lot better than I thought. It rolls a little more speed than I thought. Crazy. You wouldn't have known that if you hadn't done the exercise.
No.
That's what was really fun about the whole
Mm-hmm.
thing.
It was
I rec
incredible.
I recommended a friend of mine for the second 3-day program who is racing a Formula One car, 1989 Formula One car with a Ford DFR V8 at Lime Rock
Mm-hmm.
in a week. And he told me about, I don't know, the morning of the second day. He said, is this course really going to give me a lot to work on? And I said, yeah, it will. And morning of the second day, he's like, I haven't heard the epiphany yet. And then he did the one gear up
Hmm.
exercise. And he had been used to screaming around at high revs and get the acceleration out of the corner and rah! And he ended up going around the track in one, maybe two gears higher in his purpose-built race car. And he went quicker. And he was like mind blown. I would not have tried that on my own, but you guys asked me to ask the question, so I did. And I learned something. And I'm like, yes, this is what we want.
So, so I have to defend my beautiful bride just a moment, and she won't listen because it's a compliment, so she never hears those. The one thing she'll do is she will do the same thing over and over and over again until she's told not to do it. Like Ross said, hey, why don't you go try driving one gear higher? So my beautiful bride goes to the next HPD and she does one gear higher. Then she goes to the next race and she does one gear higher. And she goes to the next race and she goes one gear higher. And she's at the next race and she goes one gear higher. And then she's like, I won't get into fifth gear. I'm like, why are you in fifth gear? You don't need to be. This is Thompson. You don't need fifth gear. What are you
I'm
doing?
I'm drinking it up. I'm drinking it up. I'm drinking up the knowledge.
S- So HPD providers, please realize that when you say break in a straight line and then turn in, my beautiful bride is going to break in a straight line and then turn in for the rest of her life until you give her the get out of jail free card that says, "Hey, trail breaking's okay." That was a big epiphany.
You
But anyway,
learn what you know what you learn.
yep,
So,
she does what they say. She just doesn't stop. But so, Peter, I think the one of the things I wanted to get from you was I'm always interested in what the instructors and the coaches learn. So, what did you learn from the event at Pineview?
Oh goodness. I mean, where do I start? I mean, the best part about it is I think that the best coaches and the best instructors learn from every student they work with,
Yep.
and every client they work with, and every car they work with, and every group of instructors and coaches that they are in contact with. Because there's always a better way to communicate something. There's always another complex concept that can return rewards if the
Hmm.
time to learn it is invested.
Hmm.
Uh, what I learned more out of Pineview is that people are open. People are more open than we think. They're more malleable than we think. Their minds are more flexible than we think. Um, we need to give, I mean, I didn't learn this from this program per se, but it reinforced it, is that people who are open to learning can make great strides.
Hmm.
And you know, Vicky, you hit the nail on the head, and Bill, you just reinforced this. I believe that people look to instructors and coaches as authority figures, and I am one of those people who doesn't believe in that culture. I do not
Mm-hmm.
put pro drivers on a pedestal. I think some of the
Mm-hmm.
worst drivers I've ever worked with are quote unquote professional drivers. Uh, to me, a professional driver is a driver who makes a majority of the share of his living racing cars, and that's a very small number of people in North America and only slightly bigger worldwide.
Right.
Uh, Mostly pro drivers are people who have perfected a sponsorship proposal which provides them with the money that allows them to retain a professional team to prepare a car, enter the car, campaign the car, and win some paltry winnings,
Hmm.
unless it's the Indianapolis 500 or NASCAR, because it certainly ain't IMSA.
Nope.
And the point is, you can't live on those winnings. But the what I'm trying to say is, I don't believe in hero worship. I believe in proven, tested results.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that pro drivers and very, very well practiced AM drivers,
Hmm.
put their pants on the same way every morning, bleed red when they get cut on the jagged edge of the car the same way. There's really no, yes, Tommy Milner is an exceptional Corvette driver, probably one of the finest there's ever been. But the point is, he's a man, and he has been in a racing family since he was born. His father started the BMW factory racing program in this country in 1995 with the M3, and worked before that with Super V and Porsche and a whole bunch of other organizations. And now his kid is a factory driver and has kids himself.
Mm-hmm.
And and all I'm saying is, um, these people dedicated the time and effort to learn, and they are learning every day. I am learning every day. Ross is learning every day. Sam is learning every day. Everybody in that room was learning every day. And you were like, man, my friend, Ben, mind blown. You, I walked away with all of this cool stuff. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sitting there saying, yes, yes, that's what I learned, is that there's so much more out there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And there's always going to be more out there. And we
Mm-hmm.
can always afford to learn as long as we keep our minds open. That's what I came away with.
It's
Okay.
so great.
So, I'm going to give you two things, Peter, for coming on the podcast. One, see this? This is your own personal soapbox.
All right.
All right. So I'm giving you the power. You have the power. You can change five things, maybe six, maybe 20, maybe three. What are the five pet peeves you have with the current HPDE?
So I don't know if I can stop at five, but you know, I, I have always said that I am a distiller. I'm not really a coach. I'm a driver performance analyst. Ross is a coach. Ross is, he works on the head, he works on the heart, he works on the physiological response.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I don't really give a damn about that. What I care about is, are you doing what you think you're doing? That's why I love data. Data
Hmm.
is not a tattletale, it's just a tool.
Hmm.
And we remember things the way we wish they were, not as they were. And that's okay.
Hmm.
That's the way the human mind works. It's a very powerful thing. If I could change just two things about DE, about the conventional DE program, and I agree with you 100%, Bill. There are Mark Club drivers education events, chapters of the PCA and BMW CCA in particular, as well as the Audi Club Potomac region in my mind. And I'm talking primarily East Coast. I could talk about cross country, but I'm talking about mostly Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, East Coast. There are some really, really good programs. I wish every DE program could look at the instructor training program that BMW CCA runs, because I think that is something that was begun a long time ago, and it was begun through under the auspices of a number of really, really good people, including Scott Hughes and Dan Unkefer, who is a guy that I taught classroom with for 20 times a year for 8 years. A very dear friend of mine. He has passed since, but he has touched so many lives that it made a big difference. But the instructor training seminar program that BMW CCA runs, people should go look at that. They should
Hmm.
look at that training their instructors. The second thing is that I think um, the secret sauce, the way that driver's education programs seek to differentiate their own program from other programs, should not be thought of in a punitive way.
Hmm.
It should be looked at as a mind expanding way. By that, I mean, instead of vesting people with the power to come down on other people or decide other people's fates, people ought to be able to demonstrate competence and move through the system that way. And when I look at PCA, uh, like Niagara region in upstate New York, or Potomac region in Maryland, I think that, or Suncoast, does a great job in Florida. I mean, New England region, Northern New England region, NNJR, Northern New Jersey region PCA does a very good job. New England region PCA does a really good job. Um, if people could look and open their mind to visit other programs, people who operate the DE programs, I tend to feel like my second thing about the thing that I would like to change is I would like to see more cross-pollination between programs. I'd like people to be able to say, maybe we don't know all the answers. We should go and audit another region's premier DE date, and then have some of these regions that are doing a pretty good job make a space or leave a space or two for visiting region officials and volunteers to come in and see how they do it. And the problem is, as well as I do, racing is extremely stratified, secularized. NASA people race with NASA people. Champ Car people race with Champ Car people. Porsche Club America Club Racing thinks they run the most safest club racing program in the country, and I can tell you that's just not true with the number of incidents involved. There are 3 dozen significant historic racing organizations in North America. And everybody only knows, or most of the people only know what they do. They don't know what other people do. So, again, the distillation might come down to one thing on the soapbox, and that is I wish there was more cross-pollination. I wish people would go out and visit other people to see how it's done.
Now to back that up, we've been to a couple DEs that were regionals, different regions, and we addressed that same question. Like, why is one region is all based on learning and drills, and you go to another one and they do none. And I think what the gentleman had said was that we tried that, and our people here don't want that. They want track time. But I don't think you should do that. I think that if you're there, you want to make sure safety, you want to make sure that people are learning and how to properly handle their cars. Now, when those two regions get on track, it's usually the one that doesn't have all the strict learning is the one that ends up in the most accidents.
Right.
But
Absolutely. That's been
and
my
that
experience for sure.
and that's how we've divided up our time. We would go one to get all the education, and we'd go for the one, not even paying attention to them, and just do the track time. Because
You didn't have anything to pay attention to, really.
right, there really wasn't any learning involved. I mean, it was just some grievances that people have when they come in off the track, and how to do things maybe a little bit better, but there was zero education in it, and it was just which I think is highly dangerous. I really
And
do.
that's why my soapbox position will always be pie in the sky.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Always be
We
pie in the sky. It's not possible to do it.
Mm-mm.
we were lucky enough to stumble upon that as we went to a few HPDs once we knew that what an HPD stood for. Our second year of racing, and I saw that there was a very big difference. So we spent that year and the following year going to, I think we did 13.
We
Just
traveled
did,
10 hours to get
well,
to an HPDE.
yeah, which is kind of silly, but we did. And we
Oh,
tried
but
to,
you guys now know more than anybody else who runs those HPDs.
you know who cares zero for that, Ross? I have tried to get somebody closer to me to listen and say, listen, I've tried them all. I know I'm actually a teacher at college level, but they don't care. At least I
No, they
haven't found
don't.
anybody who cares. But that's
Mm-mm.
okay. Someday.
That's okay.
Mm-mm.
I mean, you just have to
Yep.
accept that. You have to understand that that's part of the deal.
Yep.
Be nice to see, but that and what snow cones and icicles in
Mm.
July would be
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah.
So,
Snow cone. You got me off track now. You're thinking snow cones. I'm thinking shave ice. Okay. Sorry, back.
Yeah.
Um, you're one of the few guests that we have on, Peter. You're one of the few guests where I come in with like 15 questions and I leave with 13 of them I never asked and 20 more. So you're stuck with us, buddy. We know your number now. You're toast. I just thought, you'd like to know, but that's okay. So
I think that's a compliment.
it is. It is for sure.
Yeah.
It is for sure. And one of the things that I did was I went back and I listened to, I think I went to 4 different podcasts that you'd been on. And I pretended to be a somewhat educated listener. And I pretended to be not that the podcast host wasn't doing their guest. It's very difficult to host and talk and think and listen at the same time. Sometimes there were some follow-up questions where I was like, but, because you kind of talked around it, but you didn't really give me something to get into. So there's this guy.
To give you that cheeseburger, babe.
And
There's always this guy.
there's this
And
guy.
you're right. Has a cheeseburger in his hand.
There's this guy. There's this guy. I don't eat cheeseburgers, and it's not me. Um, he does this speed secrets thing, and he used to podcast with it, but now he has all kinds of fun with Sam and I just blanked on his name, Jeff.
Oh, Jeff, yeah,
Yeah,
Jeff.
but
Yeah.
way back in the old Speed Secrets podcast, you and Ross got into a discussion about how there is no magic bullet. There's no magic, the fast guys know this or the fast girls know this. And then none of you people are allowed into the club because you don't know the secret handshake. And he said that the thing was that they were just better at the basics. They had become proficient. They knew what the basics were and how to get better at it and how to use them to manufacture the best lap very quickly, very safely. So, backseat quarterback Bill wants to say, what would those key basic pillars be that the part-time amateur grassroots people who race that they should be focused on?
Oh my God. Where do I start? Okay.
I try.
So,
That's why I only get through three questions, Peter.
Get that
so we're going to
soapbox.
say,
Get that
we're going to
soapbox.
say three things. Three
Whatever
things.
you want, as many as
Three
you want.
things. So, so this is a fantastic question, Bill, and I thank you for asking it because honestly, this defines my whole professional occupational existence. Is I have compiled somewhere between 18 and 20 terabytes of video and data of some of the finest drivers in the world, including a world driving champion, and class winners at Le Mans, outright winners at Daytona and Sebring. And this is this compilation of information that I have. There is not a needle in a haystack. There is not the silver bullet in that 20 terabytes of data that if I gave it to you, you could just do it.
That's all I need, Peter. Just give me that one bullet. That's all I need.
But I will tell you that the three things that the best drivers do more than any other single thing is they have absolute and stunning commitment to throttle and brakes and steering. They have no doubt, no pause, no, that doesn't mean that they're either on the gas or on the brake. That the car's sliding around at the limits of adhesion sometimes, and if you gave it a tiny bit of brake or a tiny bit of throttle, it would go off into the next county. But the point is that they are totally committed to excising, to pulling from the car and the tire grip contact patch the maximum that can be pulled from that over the largest percentage of the lap. And they can do that over and over and over again. The second thing they do, and the reason why they can do this over and over and over again, is because they place the car as best they can on a trajectory that will allow them to stay relatively on the pavement. They are not totally and completely in control of the trajectory of the car once it is set entering the corner. They are actually slightly overdriving the car from the beginning of braking all the way through wide open throttle and track out.
Mm-hmm.
So they are not following cones that are placed besides the track. That's a foreign entity to them. That is superfluous to them. It has no bearing on their selection of the beginning of the radius, where the meat of the tightest radius is, where the area of the apex is, and where the car is carried to upon track out. So the first thing is commitment. The second thing is that they are in a conversation with the car and they set the car sail to sail through the corner. The third thing they're really, really, really good at, and this is something that I was really happy to hear Ross pound on everybody so much in this Speed Secrets Academy, is they're really good at end of braking. They are so freaking good at end of braking. They are so good at blending the end of the braking into maximum cornering that there's no lost opportunity to use all the grip that is in the tire and in the car at that point. So those are the three big things. And what is remarkable to me is when I look at, and I've done this, if I look at 6 of the leading GTD pro drivers in IMSA from a couple of years ago, and I overlay their throttle and brake and their speeds in particular closely matched cars due to BOP and other performance adjustments made to the cars to equalize their performance as much as they can, it's almost indistinguishable. There's
Mm-hmm.
really not as much of a difference between some of these drivers as you might think, but they are maximizing everything they've got all the time. And that
Mm,
is magic to watch.
mm,
And it's something that we can always strive for. First, in little tiny pieces, in slower areas of the track with less risk. And then as we get more comfortable and we get to the point where we know what's going to happen before it happens, then we can start scratching on the edge of what a lot of these top level drivers are doing. And I must say, I have worked with amateur drivers, drivers in no recognized series, who are exhibiting some of the best execution of fundamental skills that I'd put them against. I'd put them against the top level pros. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not magic. That's the issue, and that's where that comes from, is the fact that Ross and I have looked at so much information from so many high level drivers that we realize it's all about hard work and it's all about seat time, but not just pounding around doing the same old thing.
Mhm.
That's the key. We have to do something different. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Right.
And these people have gotten to the point where they are consciously, slightly overdriving the car, even though you could sit right next to them and not even know it.
Yep.
wow.
Yep. So I've got two follow-up questions before Vicky explodes on me, and we have the she will not let this podcast go, and I want to respect your time. But so uh an example of that would be, I believe, when you looked at the data for Miss Vicky versus Alyssa, their min speeds were the same or very close. Yet Alyssa was quite a bit faster.
So what Alyssa did, and it's funny, Vicky, that you open this podcast with me jumping up and down next to that window when I heard your car going around the track and you were
So
sitting at
fun.
the desk. And I didn't know this was going down.
Was cracking
I
up.
didn't know it was, I didn't know it was, I didn't know it was going down until it was happening.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And I was, I mean, all I had to do, and this comes from a lot of things, but it comes from the fact that my office at VIR is up on a hill about, I don't know, half a mile from the racetrack. I can't see the racetrack, but I can hear everything on it.
Hmm.
And when somebody leaves the pit lane in a particular way, I know that that person knows what the hell they're doing.
Yep, you can tell.
I can tell right away. I can hear the first three gear shifts and I go, I think I'm going to stop what I'm doing and go listen to this for a second. Because I can tell exactly where they are on the track. I can tell exactly what they're doing on the track. I can tell exactly what's next on the track. And if they do it right, I know exactly what it's supposed to sound like.
Hmm.
So I was sitting next to that window. We had the window open because it was hot in the classroom. Your car leaves the pit lane, and I'm like, okay.
And
And
just for
then,
reference, it's a 99 Miata.
yep,
Spec me
yep,
out.
Spec Miata.
suspect Miata. And what was remarkable about it was I could hear the driver building. So I could hear a recce lap, which was an out lap that was not at 6/10 or 7/10, but more like 8/10 or 8.5/10 right off the
Hmm.
bat. Meaning that the driver had some level of confidence in their own capabilities if the car decided it didn't want to do what they were asking it to do. Then about the third lap in, it was up to speed. And I
Hmm.
heard such crisp transitions between wide open throttle and braking, between the end of braking and throttle pickup, between the throttle pickup and wide open throttle, and just sustained periods of just all out.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, first off, this person knows this track. Second off, this person doesn't just know this car, they know the physics and dynamics that are going to affect this car before they get to where they're going to next. And so that was really, really fun that you picked on that opening the podcast and said you jumped up and down, you yelled commitment. Way.
Commitment. That's what it was. It's just like right in the middle of this seminar that we were having. And he goes, "No, that's commitment."
Yeah, Ross was sitting there talking about mental imagery, and I'm like,
Right.
no, this is commitment.
It's commitment. I was dying. It was so
And,
freaking
and
funny.
and I was jumping up and down. And I was like, there is something so satisfying as a professional, as a person that makes their living and thinking 24/7, 365 about how to help people go quicker and help themselves go quicker.
Hmm.
That when it happens, when you hear that dynamic, a reinforcement of the best execution of fundamental skills, to me that is a really important thing. And that's why that was so much fun, Bill.
Yep, it was. 100% it was. So, the last part, the follow up of the prior question, because I have to do it. So, would you say that the concept of a driver style is overstated then?
That's one of the best questions I've ever been asked on any podcast. I
That's how
do,
we roll, Peter. We
Nah.
only ask the best stuff.
I got to tell you, Bill, that is awesome. I used to think more than I do now that style was a thing. Um, Style is like English hitting a tennis ball,
Hmm.
trying to figure out how to make it arc in a different trajectory than just a straight on trajectory.
Yep.
Um, I have had an opportunity to look at some Michelin pilot drivers driving GT4 factory built race cars last couple of years. And this is because it's a 2 hour and 45-minute race, you always have a co-driver. So I've done a lot more comparisons between two drivers in the same car on the same track in the same day, which is awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
And based on that, and based on the fact that a lot of the best driver pairings are within tenths and hundredths of a second for hours at a stretch, I would have to say that style is overblown. Now, when you get to something like Formula One, where you have quote unquote the smooth style of Jenson Button versus Max Verstappen, who is organized chaos, but you never see it
Hmm.
because he's already ahead of the car.
Hmm.
I think that there is style is more of a thing at that ultimate level. But in terms of production-based cars, I think style is overblown. I think that a smooth driver is often a slow driver, and a driver that is bent on slightly overdriving the car, whether it be with steering frequency, which is how often that they move the wheel, or steering amplitude, which is how much they move the wheel. Those differences, when you look at the output, at what their speeds are at any given point on the circuit and what their time is over the lap, and the cumulative amount of wide open throttle time over the lap and percentage, and all of these real numbers we can put to what we thought were subjective measures. No, I don't think one person's style is automatically better than another person's style. I do not. I think that people do what they're comfortable with. And when people say I have a particular style or I need a particular setup, it's because they are most comfortable with what the car is going to do when they give it their perception of what the car needs.
Hmm.
Whereas I have plenty of drivers who drive at a very high level who get in a car that is not set up at all, and they're right on pace.
Right.
You know? And then they
Yep.
come back in, and the crew chief says, "Okay, what do we need to do?" And the crew chief says, or the driver says, It's fine. I'll drive around it. Now, as you get higher and higher in the food chain, in the pyramid, it does those changes make more of a difference,
Hmm.
and the operating margins between the competitors are much finer.
Right.
So yes, then it becomes more of a collaborative experience. But I think in terms of driver style, I think it's still the best execution of fundamental skills rules.
Okay. Take that. Anyway, so Vicky will not leave. I want to tell you the success that you've had. So we've been racing for, this is our eighth season this year. And I have been a engineer longer than that. And I have tried to get Miss Vicky to be entertained with either a graph or a squiggly line or a chart or anything. And I am for about 50,000. Now, she goes to one event with you, and now she says we cannot get off of this podcast without talking about a data 101 for someone just starting out in data. What should somebody, let's go with code name Vicky or someone similar, what should they look to and try to pay attention to? Because I've tried the whole V path and U path, and I've tried the ball, Peter. She doesn't like it. So with your eloquence and your tone, perhaps you will finally become at one with the data because she's actually wants to.
Taking notes. I'm taking notes.
She has taken notes. She may become as one with the data, and we may actually use any of the systems we have. Just tell her which one or what data point she should look at, or data 101, 101, maybe even 100. Pre-calc instead of calc, whatever.
Well, I think, you guys both know that I have hung my hat on the objective evaluation of driver performance since I started one-on-one professional coaching full time 18 years ago.
Hmm.
And I didn't want it to be my opinion. I wanted to look at the accumulated information and, in consultation with the driver, together look at it as two people trying to solve a common problem, which is how do you go faster based on what you're doing now.
Right.
And so I think that there are two levels of data. One level is uh, just simple speed and track position and segment timing information. We know, like devices like some phone apps, which I don't particularly care for because they're not updated quickly enough or accurate enough for good, reliable, consistent information. Then there are devices like the AIM Solo or the AIM Solo 2, which does not have any connection physically to the car, so there's no driver input information. There's just speed, lap time, segment time. Lap time, we decided a long time ago, lap time is too big a measure to figure out whether or not people are doing the best thing. Lap time is the culmination of dozens of decisions and skill executions made every lap. Now, if we make every skill execution the best it can be, and you do that a dozen times or dozens of times a lap, you will go quicker.
Hmm.
So chasing the lap time is chasing your tail, whereas working on the best execution of fundamental skills, that is a building block and a foundation for further improvement. So if you have a device that is like a Garmin Catalyst or an Apex Pro or a Solo 2 or a Garmin, I probably already said Garmin Catalyst, um, which I think is a wonderful tool. No driver does their best individual corners all in one lap.
I
No
wish
driver.
I wish I could, sir. I try.
I think everybody does. But I think that if you were able to find and focus using segment time analysis or split time analysis,
Hmm.
or opportunities in the Garmin, or the theoretical best lap in TrackMate, or a theoretical best lap in Apex Pro, or the ideal lap in VBox, or the eclectic lap in Motec. That is a collection of your best individual corners strung together in one ideal lap. That is a very powerful tool because that is a set of goalposts. And that is a set of goalposts that always moves forward. So if you are doing 127.5 and your theoretical best is a 126.8, if you get closer to a 126.8, that theoretical best is going to go to a 126.2.
Hmm.
Then if you get to a 126.4, your best theoretical might get to a 125.9. And so all of a sudden, you have a goal. I want to get to my theoretical best. I have a lot of drivers who tell me I really want to break 210 at VIR in my box stock Cayman. And I say, what are you doing now? And they say, well, I've done a 210. And they send me the data file. And I look at the data file and there's a couple of 212s and 213, 214, 215. Oh, by the way, there's a 210.8. And I say, well, the first thing you got to do is you've got to do 210s every time out to call yourself a 210 driver. And to do a 209, you need to be able to do more than one 210. So don't think you're going to sit there and go from 212s, which is your average lap, which is what the Garmin actually calculates a fast average, which I think is actually more representative of a driver's performance than people always look at their best lap and they go, oh, that's my performance. No, it's not. It's an outlier.
Right.
Don't kid yourself. Quit kidding yourself. So let's get to the point where we're able to do quick laps consistently first. You don't need throttle position or brake pressure or engine revs or gear or anything to get to the point where you can drive consistent quick laps. You need to shoot tight groups. That is the number one thing I ask people to do first. Because if they aren't running, if they aren't shooting tight groups, if they cannot do 3 or 4 laps in a row on a clear track within a couple of tenths, I'm talking 2 tenths, 3 tenths, 4 tenths max, then that means that they are doing different things at the same spot on the track each lap. They are
Hmm.
not doing the same things at the same point on the circuit lap after lap after lap. And that is the other difference about professional drivers and top level drivers over the rest of us, is they are like metronomes. So the first order of business, and whether you do it squiggly lines or whether you do it a split time analysis or whether you look at the optimal lap in a Garmin, ideal lap in VBox, split time report in AIM, if you look at that and there's too much of a split between the eclectic lap, what your best corners strung together are, and your fast lap, or your fast average lap is not as quick as the outlier, the fast lap, then that's where you work on first. You got to be able to do that over and over and over again. The second thing is video. I mean, I've had a discussion, it's funny. I have a colleague who is a really good educator on data, but he's married to one particular brand. And for years and years, this brand, they were the last to the table in offering squiggly lines with the video in the same window. And I got to tell you, video, the power of video is extraordinary. And the point is that most people, can assimilate more information visually quicker than they can trying to parse through squiggly lines and rows of an Excel spreadsheet in channels reports or VMin charts or whatever. If you look at the video, and especially intelligent video being the video with throttle and brake and gear and other stuff that the driver is doing rendered on the background of the video in real time. So you're looking at everything that's going on that video. You will watch that video. Every driver can watch their own video of their quick lap, and they can say 85 or 90% of that lap is exactly as I remember it. But 10 or 15% of that lap, that's not how I remember it. I don't remember blowing that apex. I don't remember missing that gear. I don't remember being offline right there. I don't remember crabbing in at that point on the circuit. I need to fix that. So what happens is a simple review of video, especially video with throttle on the back of it. And throttle is the watchword. The throttle is the daddy. Throttle is the commitment. Throttle is the window into the mind of confidence and comfort and surety. If you watch that video and you identify the 10 or 15% of the lap that isn't as you remember it, that's where you should work on next.
Wow.
Because that you jettison all the stuff you're doing reasonably well, and you find and you focus on the area that you can really make a difference. And that is, so many people go out. We've discussed this on this podcast multiple times tonight about how people do the same thing over and over and again and expect a different result. And we all know what that is, what the definition of that is. And what we really need to do is we need to find and focus on the 10 or 15% that'll make a difference and stand pat on the 85 or 90% that, hey, we're already doing that well. Drive as well as you can that section, but find and focus on the areas that are not as you remember it, because that means that there are gaps in your knowledge, gaps in your confidence, gaps in your precision, gaps in your commitment, and all of these things conspire to rob you of the lap time you justifiably deserve.
He loves what he does. You can so
Just-
tell.
It's so much fun. It's and I thought I would get tired of it, but I do get tired of it sometimes. I mean, people come up to me all the time. Ross will call me up and he say, "So, how many more different ways can you say more gas, less brake?" But or there's always the bar. There's the Harbor Hotel bar at Watkins Glen where all the pro coaches gather after the first day of a club race and sit around and say, "So, how's your day going?" And the other person will say, "You know how it goes. Sell your company, buy a cup car," or something like that. But occasionally, when the light bulb comes on and when Vicky says, "Man, I walked away from this thing with so much more to think about, but with some really bright light bulbs going off, flash bulbs going off that are really going to affect me going forward." And you guys have already both said that. It just makes me want to do it more, and hang out with other people that do it more. That's what was so fun about. I mean, I haven't been with Ross for, I guess, 2 or 3 years. Last time we were together was at Thunderbolt when we were working with Grid Life, and we were sort of the coaches for that. And I love Grid Life. I think that is a fantastic culture and a really welcoming, warm environment, and some amazing driving going on, some really killer cars. But it had been a couple years since I'd been in the same room with Ross addressing a group, and so it was always fun to do that. And then with the addition of Sam and Mario and Ian, and Josh. I mean,
Mm.
and all the people that were there. I mean, everybody cared. Everybody gave a damn. It's just like you said, he loves what he does. Well, I mean, anytime you can turn your passion into your living, that is a total win.
Yep,
Hmm.
for sure. So, Peter, I have to keep my marriage nice and solid. So, Miss Vicky, Peter, don't listen. Miss Vicky, do you now know what to do for Data 101, Part 1?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And I'm excited to start that journey because you're right. It is a journey. This whole thing has been a journey since Bill's like, "Hey, there's a car for $500 that we can race."
Ha,
And now look at
That's great.
I'm ready to start hopping into lots of other things and other trainings, but
I have one
uh
more question for you, though, Vicky.
mhm.
What captured your fancy the most about Data at Pineview Run?
Alyssa, when
She
she
sat down with you.
no,
the reference
no,
lab.
the reference lap, and
Yeah,
then comparing my lap to the reference lap.
right.
But it wasn't just that, it was the fact that the particular data unit that I had, which linked everything together. It wasn't just lines, it was video that was in there. And then there was speed that was going at the same time. And of course, the way that I am very in tune with the way my brain is structured to receive information.
I'm not, by the way, just so you
Yeah.
know.
But but that kind of knitted everything together for me, the way that was, because you're right, it wasn't just squiggly lines. When I'm looking at squiggly lines and I'm coming out of a race car, my brain's already popping, and
Right.
I can't focus on just the lines because the lines aren't resonating with me. But when it got linked with the data and then the speed, and I'm like, oh, and then of course with the reference lap. So now it kind of gave me something to focus on. And for the other fact too was that I've gotten into a point of my learning where I'm ready to receive that information. Where now I'm not just HPDEing, or I'm just kind of slapping a car around with reference laps, or endurance racing. When most of my endurance racing, in the particular, sometimes the circuit that I'm in, is a lot of traffic management until like you're on the second day. So it's really hard to get data to do that. But I haven't been in that particular kind of racing. But now I'm at that point when I'm ready to receive that information and do something with it.
Mhm.
So I'm excited because this whole thing has been a journey. Everything's been a journey. And I just after I just left that particular academy, which is a great word for it. It did feel like an academy. Um, that it just it elevated what I was already doing. I didn't
That's
feel
great.
like I was slamming laps. I didn't feel like I've heard all of this before, and I'm just kind of it was different.
Well, it was
So,
fun because, as Bill pointed out, you were fully as quick as the reference lap in several
hmm
points on the
hmm
circuit, in especially the V-mins in the slower corners.
hmm
But the reason why you were slower is because you were slowing sooner.
hmm
You were slowing to a low speed sooner than you needed to.
hmm
And then you were waiting until it was fully safe and until
hmm
you could see your way out to accelerate out. So what
hmm
happened was there was a more area
hmm
under the curve for you than there
hmm
was. And so to me, that throttle trace and that speed trace together with the video side by
hmm
side
right.
was amazing because we looked at the video and we said, there's nothing wrong with your line. It's now working on fore aft. It's now working on that commitment that was so
hmm
evident.
hmm
And now you are absolutely primed to receive that
hmm
because you understand the difference that it can make. And I
hmm
thought that was good.
So if only there was a trick to getting the aim smarty cam pointed in the right direction, because there's no
There's
screen to
no
say,
this side up. No.
no, there's no, oh, I'm looking directly where I need to be, or oh, I'm looking at the back of her head, especially when you're trying to peek into a race car. So, that would be lovely. The only thing I like better about a GoPro is they have that little screen. I'm like, oh, I'm looking at what I want to look at, and the Smarty Cam just says, screw you.
We're just
But
going to have to do a test lap, bring it in, take a look at it, and then say, okay, that's good.
Well, the best part about those cameras is that you can actually press one of the buttons on the face of the camera and it will record manually for a short moment.
Hmm.
Then you can push the button again to turn it off, then pull the card and take a look at
There you
I knew there was a guy who knew something about these things.
go.
I should talk to that guy some more. I think I will.
Yeah.
Well,
Very
the
well.
best part about it was your car, I mean, we talked about data 101, 100 about the basics, speed, sector times, lap timing. But what you've done is you've gone to the next step. You now have data 201 because now you have all your inputs.
Hmm.
What are you actually doing with that brake pedal?
What are
How
you
fast?
doing? Oh,
That's right.
How fast are you applying the brakes? Are you braking harder earlier and then
Hmm.
releasing?
and
When in
holding.
fact, sometimes we find the opposite, which
Hmm.
is not as good, you know. And then you have throttle, which was your big breakthrough.
Hmm.
When I looked at it, was I'm looking at you going, I think, yeah, I like that sort of. Yeah, well, no, it's about time to slow down. You see Alyssa go, time to
Yep.
go, 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 stop.
Got
Hmm.
places to be. I got places to be.
That's right. I
Hmm.
got to get there right now.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But anyway, you have everything you need
Hmm.
to really supercharge your effort, which is
Hmm.
great.
Yeah.
Most people do not spend the time to do that.
We took this year up to this point off, and we had a lot of stuff that were going on, and getting in the car for me was after uh, what about it was like 7 months or almost a year of not even driving.
No.
That's
we,
tough. That's
we
hard.
were well we were in two races, but because of everything we were dealing with, I think we were all just kind of going through the motions. They were fun. But when I went to the clinic that or the academy that you guys were doing, it was like this is like I miss this. I miss the adrenaline part of it. Like I've my body has felt so lazy and
Mm.
trying to find like these things and everything is calm and sweet. But that's what we needed at the time. But then I got back in the car and I'm just like, I miss this. I miss this a lot. And I got
That's
real
great.
excited. So when I got back in the garage to start putting all of our stuff back together and getting ready for autumn racing now. So we have a couple races that are coming up, and I'm just so excited to get behind the wheel again. And now we're already discussed, going out and officially getting my comp license and then officially going to get my instructor license and, you know, of the likes. But, just kind of getting back involved with it all and having fun. So it was a lot. It was pretty great.
That's great. That's really good to hear.
Peter, thank you for coming back on. Thank you for putting up with us again. Thank you for not putting us on the auto junk filter. That's greatly appreciated. We will bother you again. Don't worry.
Well, I appreciate it, Bill. I really do, and I always enjoy talking to you and Vicky. It's a
Yes.
lot of fun.
Well, there's a reason why you'll be coming on a lot. We love talking to you too, sir.
That sounds great. Thank you.
All right, podcast over. Miss Vicky, you got a finger.
I do. I have a finger. I was just waiting so it just didn't, float off. So, thank you so much for coming on. I just like Bill when I had saw him, I was like I remembered Peter Krause's name. And then when I saw him and I heard his freaking voice, I was like, I know him. He was the first guy that registered in my brain because he taught me the line when I first got behind the wheel. You don't remember that.
Remember that. I don't.
No, I don't think you no, because I think it was a video or something that we had.
Oh, okay,
What,
okay,
what
okay.
did we
It
have a
was
discussion with him?
it was no. It was the one, two,
Road
three.
Atlanta.
It was our fourth race ever.
Hmm.
That's
And,
right.
and we were going to Road Atlanta, and I bought yours and Ross's track walk.
Hmm.
And Vicky can't stand to listen to me for a few minutes, but 2.5 hours
Stop.
later, she's still listening to you guys talking about turn 12. Because we haven't quite finished it. And everybody else is tagged out, and Miss Vicky's just sitting there enthralled, like, oh, I
Yeah.
gotta do this. And then we
I'm
get
like,
there.
oh, there's a line. He taught me the line. He taught me offline and a rain line. He taught
Yeah.
me all this. And then when I heard your voice, I'm like, I know. I was so excited when I heard his voice. And I told him, I'm like, you taught me the line.
Yeah. And the
You know,
best
it's
joke I've
funny.
had.
Ross and I have so much fun doing those things. We
Mhm.
really do.
There's a few tracks I can make requests for, just saying, there's a couple more tracks out there, sir.
There's a lot more tracks out there
Yeah.
for sure.
I appreciate all you
Thanks.
do, Peter. I really do. And
Well,
this
thank you, Becky.
and this idea that you guys have all come up with, I
We'll be,
really think it has something. If
unless work precludes, we will both be at the next one, whether I'm
Yeah,
instructing or
tell,
studenting.
tell,
They already
tell
know.
Ross.
we're empty nesters now.
Yay!
My daughter just went off to college.
Oh,
So,
that's great. Congratulations. Where's she
yeah.
gone?
She's University of Vermont.
Oh, terrific. Oh, that's a wonderful school. That's
It is a
nice.
great school. She went up there and she's like, this place feels like home.
That's
So
great.
she's having the time of her life. We just moved her in just a couple days ago.
Yesterday.
That's great.
Yesterday.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Good deal.
All right,
All right.
sir.
Well, thank you, and
Hmm.
we'll talk hopefully again soon.
Yeah,
It doesn't
thank
take
you.
long. We'll get you. Thank you,
Great to
Peter.
hear from
Thank
you,
you.
Peter. Thank you.
Bye. Good luck on your race.
Good night.
Good luck.
Thank you.